This is a show about Skibidi Toilet, the show for Gen Alpha. We're pivoting hard away from Sonic the Hedgehog. We are no longer your favorite show about Sonic the Hedgehog that uploads once a week or so. Hey, welcome back to the show. This is Sonic Weekly. We were off for a month. Now we're back talking about Sonic the Hedgehog. I am Grant, one of your hosts. With me is the Sega Saturn expert online of all things. That's the title. It's Bo. Hi, Bo.
Here we go, buddy. Here we go, buddy. Hey, there's other people here.
That's
Who
true.
are they?
It's the out of the shadows, into the spotlight, the star of the show, David the Lurker. Hi, David.
Oh, hi, Grant. Hi, Bo. That's right. We're all here with other people. It's just like old times. By old times, I mean a month ago when we recorded last. How have the two of you been on your break? Did you go anywhere fun, or
No.
did you just live? No,
I went to Legoland, and you know what I saw was a lot of Sonic Legos.
Whoa,
Yeah.
really?
They got a
That's
whole
some
wall
news,
of them.
David. They just announced today on
Oh.
social media that there are new Sonic Lego sets coming. There
really?
are, yes. There's let's see if I can remember while Smoovies brings up the on the browser.
That's right.
Or whoever.
We're
is
not
controlling the browser.
alone.
Oh yes.
To celebrate. Yes, I didn't invite. That's why I was like, oh yeah. While you're pulling that up, you can be like, hey, did you know? We're not alone. That's right. We have our occasional fourth host, the standard editor, though sometimes he's also not editing, but that's okay because everyone needs a break, just like we had a break, just like you had a break from hearing us. It's Smoovies. That's what I'm trying to say. You are here.
It's Smoovies.
It's
everyone's favorite.
Yeah. That's
everyone
Smoovies.
loves it. Loves when Smoovies here.
Have we talked about how Dimps, the maker of the Sonic Advance games, sounds like an off-brand like cereal? Like, man, we got Dimps.
But Smoovies, you're not alone. You brought a couple people that we both know. They were hiding in the
yes.
trunk of your station wagon, and when you pulled up to the studio, they got out. They were a little warm because you don't have air conditioning in the trunk, right?
No, they didn't just get out. I untied them because I had lassoed and hogtied, tossed them in the back, brought them on over.
That's right.
Dave, we've met one of them before, Chris Mykonos fan. Hi, Chris.
Hi, speaking of Skibbity, I am quantifiably within 20 minutes of Ohio, so I can help the Gen Alphaness here. But I'm not alone.
Hey. Oh, that's true. There's still more. Who else?
Who else is here? It's
I just want this to be like a clown card. Each guy's just like, well, I'm not alone though.
oh
Who said
man,
that?
right.
That was a new voice. Who said that one?
Right. Introduce yourself with whatever name you want to be called here. Is it just Stefan?
What
Or
are
is
the
it-
odds this trap door would have ended me up here?
Oh.
That's a really long name, Stefan.
Yes, it is me, Stefan. Otherwise
Right.
known as Games Enlisted, otherwise known as the other guy that knows these three people, but not those other two people. Which three and which two? That's for you to decide.
Man, is this a
Hello.
full crossover episode?
I think that's what we're doing. We're kicking off. Is this officially season 3 or is this?
This is
season
officially
2.5?
season 3. No, this is season 3.
Okay.
We are kicking it off. You are right with a David. I wonder if you're feeling like, you know, that Seinfeld episode where Elaine has like the Seinfeld group friends, but then there's the Bizarro Jerry. Because you're part of Sonic Weekly. You're the star of Sonic Weekly, but you're also one of the stars of FTCR, which has been around longer. Find the Computer Room, which is a Let's Play channel and podcast and just overall content machine that the four of you, David, Smoovies, Chris, and Stefan, have been doing as a team for a while. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, that's right. Like, none of us were involved with the creation of FTCR,
No,
but
Oh,
we've all
wow.
inherited it.
it's like been it's a big ship of Theseus at the moment.
That's right.
We're looking for the next sucker to pass it down to, don't we? All they have to do is upload 5 times a year, and it works out. It's great.
Is it like the videotape in The Ring, or is it like it follows, or is it something that is foisted upon you, or is it something that is usurped?
I feel like it's a weird third thing because nobody really wants it, but also nobody wants to get rid of it. So we just kind of like we hold on for dear life, but we don't know why.
Okay.
Yeah, in my case, it was a DM at 2 a.m. that said, "Hey, this is yours now," and I went, "Okay." Cool. So here we are. Hey, hi.
Here you. And you've had it ever since. It's been I forget exactly. It was
a little bit over 4 years by now.
It was 3 weeks before the pandemic began in earnest. So
that's right, because it was handed over. Saw the Sonic movie. Everyone went into lockdown, and then it's just been smooth sailing ever since, I think. But yeah, it's been fun. This is FTCR and Sonic Weekly. They're doing the crossover, just like how Sonic's supposed to crossover with something.
Like
both
Legos.
shows...
You know, the other thing about Legoland is there was a restaurant nearby that had a menu just full of the Sonic font, like the Sonic the Hedgehog font. Everything was in it, like grilled cheese with the Sonic font. And then across from that restaurant was another restaurant that used the Sonic 3 font as the restaurant logo. So there's just a lot of Sonic typography on this vacation I went on.
The spirit of Sonic is following you. You know, I felt that way as well because I think this business has been in my neighborhood the whole time I've been here, which is 10 years or more. But it wasn't until the other week when I turned the corner, I was like, oh, there's a lighting and electronics store called Sonic.
I told you this when I came to visit you. And you're like, what are you talking about?
You. Yeah, I definitely. I that was in one of you because that did not match my reality. So I didn't even remember that.
Related, very close to me, there is a recording studio called Sonic. I think it's called Sonic Union something or other, and it is the Sonic font. And I felt like I've seen that like years ago, and I went, "Hey, wait a minute!
I can dox all of you now. This is great. Keep going, Steven. What's near you?
Sheets.
Oh, okay.
Whoa, Sheets. Okay, here. I was born on the 3rd floor of the hospital. Now you can dox me. Does that hospital still exist?
I was hoping you were going to say you were still there to this day.
Oh yeah, I moved in.
You still haunt the hallways.
Right? Can you haunt things before you die, or
Sure.
do you have to?
Yeah, haunt's like another word for loiter. So ghosts are like loitering in your there.
Like
it's a loitered
haunt.
house.
Yeah.
Right. So like the Archie gang, their haunt is Pop's chocolate shop, where
Yes.
chocolate is spelled wrong because it's the 50s
Right.
or
With a
the
K.
40s
Chocolate.
with a K. That's how you know it's extreme.
Yeah.
Man.
Who spells
anyway,
chocolate with a K?"
Pop does. Pop. He's the one who does. What was I going to say? Okay, so yes, David, you're doing 2 shows, sort of simultaneously about Sonic the Hedgehog, and yet both shows also are not afraid to veer off into other subjects. And I noticed that your guys' most recent episode was something that we were going to talk about as well, although I don't know how much I have to say because you guys did like 2 hours or more on the Lara-Su Chronicles, the new Ken Pender's
That's right.
book that we both have.
Longtime listeners know that I've been talking about this book probably since since Sonic Weekly began, where I'm like, here's what Ken's up to. This is what Ken's up to. This book might happen. This reprint might happen. It's coming. It's been bought. It's in the mail. And we disappear. And man, it took forever to show up in the mailbox. Well, you ordered it. Well, wait, how long did it take for you to get it? I know you ordered it after it was released, right?
Yeah, I think I ordered it the day that it did release, the day when reactions first started appearing. And actually, I think when it was confirmed that there was breastfeeding, I got my credit card
That's
out.
what got you in.
Yeah. And I was like, and I think I had arrived within a week.
Wow. Okay.
Well, the great thing about that is you could follow your order in real time because every single day Ken was like, well, I'm heading to the post office.
Yes,
He's doxing himself much like we are.
that's
So
right.
you could
that's
always
right.
know when your book is heading out. I have it here in front of me, open to the page where Knuckles' dad died, just in case we needed it.
Oh,
The most
So-
effective way to prevent being doxxed, though, in my experience, is to not be interesting at all. So, like, it's not
Ah.
interesting
I-
at all.
I think
that
it's pretty
where
interesting that I live in Legoland. Like,
wow.
Well, I think you need an outlet. How did you like the Lara-Su Chronicles? You read it cover to cover 3 times, I'm sure, right?
Oh yeah. Did you read the whole thing yet? Like, or have you been
still haven't
slowly
read it yet.
savoring?
Me?
what?
Grant?
So explain
Yes,
it to me,
you,
who
Grant.
has not held this thing in my hands yet. So it's some new stuff and some old stuff. Like, what's the ratio? What's the old stuff?
Yeah, so I have tried to read it cover to cover. I have not succeeded. It's dense. It's dense. And
Is
I would
it?
say boring. And I would say,
Well, okay.
well,
It's
I
a
don't
page
know.
turner.
I don't know. I
You
have
can
flipped
turn the
through-
pages.
I have turned the pages. I've probably looked at every page and read every page, but not in order. So yes, it is mostly reprints of Archie comics, and specifically the arc called Mobius 25 Years Later, which appeared first as a couple of full issue stories, chapters in this story, and then later as backup or second stories within the monthly Sonic comic book. So it's a bit the pacing is a little like that, and then halfway, or maybe I guess not halfway, but like 3/4 through, it's not Archie anymore. Then it becomes Shattered Tomorrows, where it becomes the new art style, and it's post Cataclysm, and that's where the breastfeeding is, because Archie would never have allowed that, and that's where like all the messed up stuff is, which is how many? It's like 20 pages, I guess. So it's like in a book that is how many pages overall? You would think this would be plastered on it.
250.
It's 160 something.
Oh.
It's like, yeah, it's not even 200. It's like 166 or 168.
And there aren't any page numbers in it, right?
No, there's a
there's-
table of
Yeah.
there's a table of contents with page numbers listed on the table, but there are no.
Yeah,
It's not.
That's
yeah,
true.
I didn't end up picking it up because like I was curious, but it's a bit too much money for me for shipping and Canadian conversion to kind of go through it. But I did
Yeah.
get to see I got to see Chris's copy when I saw him at Too Many Games last month. So
Yeah.
he showed it to me, and I was like, you know what? To be fair, I think like the page quality is really nice. It's
Yes.
like the hardcover it does feel like well bound. But then it's like
Yes.
when you start looking into it, it's like, oh, this font is like you can barely read it. And yeah, there's a table of contents, but no page numbers. And like once you get to the new stuff, it's like, yeah, okay, this art looks ugly. It's like,
Yeah.
if he like, I know he's been talking about, oh, he wants to keep on reprinting the books. And I'm like, despite the logistics behind it, I think if he did do that, like they probably will be good quality, because I think those reprints did look good quality, but yeah, the rest of it just kind of looks eh.
No, I think you're absolutely right. The aesthetic of it is very nice. And then I was going to say more, but then I also felt like I just cut somebody off. So then I was going to
Oh no, go on.
leave
You-
space.
You go.
Oh, okay.
No, go.
Well, all right. So why haven't I finished it? Well, I've realized that what I like is Sonic the Hedgehog. And the further that you get away from that, the more that my eyes glaze over. And this book starts pretty tangential to Sonic. It is about the future of Sonic, where Knuckles has a robot eye and a goatee and blonde hair. Is that Knuckles on the cover? He's wearing the hat. Is that him?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Canucks, actually.
It's the vegetarian fake meat alternative to Knuckles, though, right? It's like Canucks.
Right. Canucks is on the cover with
But
the
he
goatee.
starts as
but
Knuckles
in
in-
the Archie stuff. Yeah, he
Yes.
doesn't have the goatee. He is just Knuckles.
Yeah. So I'm somewhat interested in Knuckles being like a bad dad and how he says things like, there's another ancient echidna custom I think needs reviving. It's called a spanking. And then Lara-Su says, Knuckles, how barbaric. And he says, I give up. You try reasoning with her. And then they just... So, I mean, one of the
So
reasons that I
Penders
have a hard time
hasn't got
with
over his dad stuff yet, is what I'm hearing.
Oh, it's very... And that's the kind of thing is like, what is the story about? What's the hook to it? And the back of it is, it opens with writer-illustrator Ken Penders pitched the story. That's the opening line. It's like, okay, so this began as a pitch. Is your pitch for why I should read it?
I think a lot of stories start that way when they're published by other people, right? You go in, you're like, I've got a pitch, and they're like, okay, I'm a catcher. Go ahead and pitch, and then you throw what you wrote in a wadded up ball at them, and if they catch it, that means. Wait, if they catch it, do they print it? Or if they miss, does that mean you won and then they print it? I don't know. I'm not in Hollywood.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I think I can just, there's enough text here on the back cover that for Bo, who has not held this in his hands and doesn't know, and the listener who maybe is finding that this is tangential to their interests, this will maybe get us on the same page. So it starts with big text that says it was 20 years ago. And I don't know what was 20 years
Sergeant
ago.
Pepper.
I believe it is a Beatles reference because he makes Beatles references a lot. And I'm pretty sure it's opening with a Sergeant Pepper's Beatles reference. Then it says, writer-illustrator Ken Penders pitched the story Mobius 25 years later, featuring the characters he had created for the long-running Sonic the Hedgehog and Knuckles the Echidna comic series published by Archie Comics. The sentence is still going. Comma. Only it would be set in the future of the present day storylines. Period. Some characters would be married with families of their own. Others walked different paths. The fate of a world would be determined. What?
Some are married, some are not.
Some are married, some are not. The fate of a world would be determined. What? Okay, continues. The story would be told in chapters. Yes, I'm aware how stories work.
Oh,
what the fuck?
Hold up.
The story would be published in chapters, published in successive issues of the Sonic the Hedgehog series, with the eventual outcome being the chapters collected as one complete graphic novel. Bro.
These stories are printed on pages which are made from trees.
You're holding in your hand a book. Books have existed for a long time. They're ways to communicate information, sometimes fictional, which means made up, and other times non-fictional, which means not made up. All right, there's still a little bit more text. After 14 chapters, the back of the book is already like exhausted with itself. It's like, how much more do I need to tell you to sell them? It's like, after 14 chapters, the editors at Archie had other plans and asked Ken to conclude the last chapter on a note the story would be revisited at some point at a later date. What? Okay, let's read that again. After 14 chapters, the editors at Archie had other plans and asked Ken to conclude the last chapter on a note the story would be revisited at some point at a later date.
Yeah.
No notes.
Okay,
I'll say this. I've been saying this for years. Ken just needs an editor. Clearly.
Archie Comics and Ken Penders would soon come to a parting of the ways. A parting of the ways.
Diplomatic.
I love when he puts in little phrases that are a bit fanciful. Parting of the ways, with the story
this
left
is on
unfinished.
The back of the book.
Yeah, there's still more. Now, after Ken spent years reclaiming the copyrights to his work, see, now that sounds interesting. Where that should be the book. The story continues. What story? Some people are married is the story. Collected here for the first time ever are all 14 original chapters of the original Mobius 25 years later, with a new last page of the 14th chapter that leads into the all-new material, setting the stage for old and new readers alike to discover and enjoy a new world of adventure on the same level. The Lara-Su Chronicles starts here. Floating Island Productions, Los Angeles, California, USA.
It's
That is
an
the
odd
back cover.
copy when all he needed to say was, hey, 3 dozens of pages in, Sonic and Knuckles finally reunite and Sonic burps at his table. And I think that would have sold a lot more people.
Yeah, this is high
Right,
action.
You could be like, oh, it's a period of prolonged peace, Knuckles the Echidna, Sonic the Hedgehog have settled down, have children because there's no more war. All war is over. Even though I guess technically all war is not over because they had a fight that they mentioned in a Star Wars fashion where it's like, whoa, that could be an interesting story, but instead we need to have the sleepover. So it's
Well, they play billiards, you see.
I guess if I was writing the copy for the back of this, it would be like, the video game character and franchise Sonic the Hedgehog, and how it's so exciting when he's going fast and fighting Dr. Robotnik, aka Dr. Eggman, with his friends Tails and Knuckles. Well, what if that friend Knuckles in the future got married, had a daughter, and that daughter, she got into a little trouble. Who knows what kind of trouble, but she got into some things. Would you be interested in that? Right. And how does that not sound like somebody that's like driving a van, like offering you candy?
She doesn't even get into trouble.
What if Espio the Chameleon had offspring?
Could he even see them? That's my question.
You do see Salma, right? That's her name? Salma? Yeah, it's that's Espio's daughter, who's Lara-Su's best friend, and she's secretly dating Rutan, who is Linda's son, although we don't know who his father is. That's a mystery, apparently. In the new material, Ken Penders and his the data files or whatever it's called at the back, he's like, oh, nobody knows who Rutan's father is, and it's like, whoa, is that a mystery we should be caring about? Or I guess it's because she's like evil and secretive, so whoever she would choose to be her mate would be like either just as evil or maybe not evil, and that's it.
It's the most obvious.
Oh, go on. I'm sorry.
It's the most obvious thing to point out, but it's like it is so clear that Penders wants nothing to do with Sonic, and he has his own super epic sci-fi idea with this like big sprawling cast of characters that he's wanted to write for so long. But he's like, well, when he was going from like place to place, doing basically writing for hire, he was like, oh, I'm gonna sneak in. He found a way to sneak in all of his ideas into these projects, and because he devoted so much of his original ideas into those projects, he can't just go like, oh, I'm gonna make a new story and just finally do what I wanted to do. He's like, I've already devoted these ideas into this story, so I need to take that from, even though he put it in a story that it does not fit and does not work at all. But he's too far gone, and he doesn't care. He just simply he's like whatever. It's like I wrote for Sonic. That is Sonic to him. So even if we're all like, yeah, this clearly is not Sonic, it's like he's written in that world, in that mindscape, in that headspace for so long that he just can't really see outside of it. So yeah, he's gonna keep writing Lara-Su in his mind as part of like this kind of Sonic adjacent thing, even though it would be so much better for him and everybody else if he just created a new thing with like new names. Because like so many artists and creators do that, of being all like, oh, we want to create a story, we might have used some of the ideas of a story we want to do in an IP thing, but it's like, oh, who cares, we'll just take the idea and make a whole new thing. And the most people will say is, oh, that's a cute Easter egg to your previous work. Like, they don't care about like if you're straight up copying your own ideas. It's like, just go for it.
Another name for this book could have been the sunk cost fallacy, because this is exactly what that is. It's just like, well, I've already put this work in, so I can't stop, even though everybody is telling me to. It is very clear that he has some epic other story in mind, another story. That is true. But what that story is, I don't have a good way to. I mean, I think it was a story. It's a story of generational trauma, and how that, how eventually the parent becomes the child to the parent, like, or how pain is passed out. Like, I think it's something that's sort of as esoteric maybe as that, but with Sonic the Hedgehog characters, I think also it's about drawing boobs on echidnas, because there's a lot of the boobs, and it's definitely not helping the like, oh, Sonic fans want to fuck the characters. It's not helping with that.
The breastfeeding is because he wants it to be looked at as mature open-minded and be like, well, what is civilization? How does civilization continue? It continues because it's parents.
Sorry, I didn't
and
even mean the
children
breastfeeding in that particular instance. I was
Oh, you
I was literally
you
looking
just
at one
mean
of the
all the
Archie
boobs.
pages. And it
Oh,
was
you
just
mean the
like,
Archie boobs? Okay, yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I'm just saying, like, it's just
I think Stephen Butler just wanted to draw some sexy echidnas.
yeah.
Who among us doesn't?
Right.
Frankly,
Right.
Yeah,
No shade to it, really, but it's just like,
I know.
that seems like that seems to be the energy that is animating it more than anything.
Oh man, do you think somebody's going to animate it?
ooh,
I don't know.
Netflix?
It is I was gonna go on. It's okay.
I was just gonna say, I guess like one of the conclusions David and I reached is like, I'm not even sure he has a story he really wants to tell. I think he just likes the idea of having a story to tell.
Yes.
Because to
Yes.
save people
Yeah.
like the 2 hours we talked over on our channel, like nothing advances the story here that presumably he's been like itching to advance for 20 years. Like it kind of just retreads what you already just would have read in this book, right?
Right.
And maybe he didn't know he's going to reprint it at whatever point he made it. Because one of these comics is from 2015, apparently. But you get to the end of the book and you're like, all right, so what's different?
Nothing.
Some character designs.
Right. It's
Right.
designs, and also Knuckles is dead, maybe.
Do you think Yu Suzuki has the same problem, which is, oh man, I've had however many decades to think of a way to advance Shenmue, and I get the chance, and then, oh man, the story winds up exactly where it was.
I think because that's actually the exact comparison I drew to when I was talking with David. Because I was like, this is literally Shenmue
Oh,
3.
you've already thought of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's just a creator coming back like about 2 decades later to a very dedicated but small fan base. And then he goes, okay, here you go. And everyone's like, okay, but nothing happened. So they immediately looked at him and they're like, so what's next? And he's like, I don't know.
Just like
Here's
every
a hair
day for
twister.
15 years, he had it on his to-do list, like, all right, come up with news story. And he looks at it.
Is that the tuxedo mask gif? Oh, my job here is done.
Especially because the book that came out isn't the book that he's been promising for like the past 10 years. The one he's been promising is the first volume of the Lara-Su Chronicles.
Ooh.
This is not the first volume of the Lara-Su. This is Lara-Su Chronicles Volume 0.
Yes.
It's like
Yeah.
literally,
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's
Right.
it's again, it's this weird thing because on the one hand, it's like he's an artist, he's got stuff to like, it's like the stuff happens. So I don't want to be all I don't want to be like, oh man, like why aren't you slaving yourself away to like get this done? Because again, like for art, it's anything can happen. It's like I don't want to be like that entitled person of, oh, you gotta make this. But there is kind of a thing of 10 years and less than 20 pages of new content you got done and published is kind of like, like what happened? Like, where
I think I know.
Like, yeah.
I think I know what happened, which is, so
Okay.
I said dense earlier, and it felt like, what I mean by that is that it feels like, the end, it has like these bio pages, right? It feels like he's
Oh,
just
boy.
been sort of like sitting in this like soup, this non-story,
grandfather.
but like lore soup of like, oh, these
Lara
characters.
Soup?
It's right there.
The Lara-Su aisle.
Yes, exactly. He's been in the Lara soup, but not necessarily concerned about where the story is going to go, because it's probably continuing to grow in ambition in his mind, because I think, Chris, you nailed it, that he just kind of likes having, and I totally get that too. I think like anybody that is, written a story or like, particularly when you're like, if you set out to like write a book or something, so what I'm thinking of for myself is the one time that I did TV development for a project that I sold, which was sort of inspired by Sonic. And so I got to write up a TV Bible and a pilot script. And it was way more fun to do the Bible than the script, because the Bible is just like world building and lore and possible stories that could be told. Whereas the script was like, that joke's not funny enough. Like, this is kind of dumb. Like, it's just like never quite as good as you think it's going to be. So I have a feeling that for Ken, a lot of it was just trying to get this in motion of like, I've got to do it. I think he's motivated so much too by like spite that it's just like, no, I said I'm gonna do it, and I'm just gonna do it. There's like a stubbornness that I think radiates out of this book.
Maybe Ken should have just written like an RPG book, right? Like where it's just locations and characters, and isn't that exactly what it is? Just it's a bunch of lore in a book, and then you tell your story. That's Dungeons and Dragons and Lara-Su.
That's kind of what Stefan was saying too. Like, I mean, frankly, we should email him that of like, dude, stop what you're doing. What you really want is just people to role play as your characters, and for you to have like rules about who lost their virginity when and to who, and that is canon.
And yeah, I think you are exactly right, because I mean, like, yeah, everybody. I mean, I've fallen into this trap. Everybody's fallen into this trap where you have like you have a whole bunch of ideas, and there's more. You're more fun with plotting and outline. Like I think like what he said he had like 12 volumes worth of story ideas. So like maybe
I thought he said it's 7.
Seven,
yeah,
so
7 volumes.
He's got 7 titles.
Like, oh, there's 8 Shenmue games, and it's like, no, there's not, Mr. Suzuki.
yes. 7 volumes.
There's 3 now.
Yeah,
but...
so 7 volumes that are like at somewhere between 150 and 200 pages. So it's like he's probably outlining a whole bunch. So he's like, okay, this is the world building, and he's like, okay, this is what I want to do. This happens. But maybe he doesn't know like, oh, this is like relevant to the story, but it's not like happens in the story. But he gets so caught up in his details that he's like, oh, like I have the like again like those character bios at the end of the book. It's like, oh, he puts so much work and thought into this, but maybe he doesn't have as strong of a story to like put his world building behind. So again, yeah, he's essentially just stalling because he hasn't figured out the plot basically. But he has he knows his characters, he knows his world, he knows kind of like a good idea of the lore, but he doesn't know what story he wants to tell or why he wants to tell it.
Right. Well, because he's also changed his mind as to what Mobius 25 years later was meant to be. We talked about this with Chris on the FTCR episode, if you want to hear it in more detail, but it was Knuckles 20 years later, which was supposed to end with Knuckles fighting a robot that was introduced in Sonic Live. And then Mobius 25 years later became, we're going to show them just living their days, and then there's going to be a bit of time travel, and then Knuckles is going to have to work with Sonic to save the life of Lara-Su because she gets wiped out of the time stream. And then this... well, I guess Mobius explodes, and they have to deal with the fact that Mobius explodes. Oh, right, because that's what's supposed to happen next in that big 2-page splash that you saw, Grant, where it's teasing what's coming next.
Yeah.
Mobius exploded it in one of those images.
Oh.
Which is something he's been talking about since he's gone, oh yeah, Lara-Su, I'm making it. Because he did put up pages of script years and years ago where the characters are dealing with the fact that Mobius exploded. He does keep on changing his mind. But then when you said like, oh yeah, 7 volumes, 150 to 200 pages, I'm like, 200 7-volume books would be about that's 1,400 pages. That's as long as the Death and Return of Superman, the omnibus.
And presumably he's writing and drawing the art for all of it, because I don't think he's said he has any artists that he's working with. So yeah, and knowing again his progress with his art, that's also a thing. Well, first, how long it'll take, and 2, the quality of the art, which is not good. It is not good. He keeps trying to do that weird slight 3D design for all of his characters and with the coloring and the shading, and it just does not look. It looks ugly, and it bugs me because it's like you look at the earlier stuff with the Stephen Butler art. It's like, like the Stephen Butler art's all right. It's like, oh hey, this looks nice. It's colorful. I can tell what's going on in these images.
What's Stephen Butler up to? Maybe Ken should have gotten him on board.
He should, but again, it's that slight ego-ness of like he has these ideas that are so like important to him, and it's like he wants to draw this, he wants to get it out there because he is proud of it. But there comes a point where it's like, why don't you just divorce it from Sonic completely. Like, you can't even
Right.
say the word echidna. At that point, just make a whole new story. Yeah, again, you're like you said, he's completely like changing the story that I was originally going to do. It's completely different now. Just make a whole new story. Like, even like, again, you have Lara-Su, you have the rights to all those characters. You can still call them Lara-Su, but now they're a completely different alien. You maybe give them completely different designs. You don't have to deal with the baggage of your Sonic work. I know, like, maybe it's pride of like, oh, you're proud of that work, so you want to hold on to it, or maybe it's like, again, like the ego of, oh, I defeated the company and got the rights back, so now I'm going to hold to it and take advantage of it, especially considering instead of going towards volume 1, he announces, oh, actually, I'm thinking about reprinting the rest of my series. So maybe it is
reprints are an easy source of income.
Easy money, exactly. It's like, so maybe volume 1 still isn't nowhere near close to be done, and he figured out he has an easy way to get attention and money. So
I wonder what will come first, the Lara-Su Chronicles second, or what will volume 1 be called? It's not beginning. The Lara-Su Chronicles
volume 1,
Shattered Tomorrows,
volume 1, Shattered Tomorrows, or the Winds of Winter, the next.
Oh God,
Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
Book.
See, no,
Brick.
I think if he manages to get those Knuckles reprints like confirmed, I think those will probably come out first. But I think Winds of Winter has a better chance of coming out than Shattered Tomorrows.
Stephen Butler just launched a Kickstarter.
Ooh.
For him and writer Blake Barnes. It's called Mississippi Macabre.
Macabre.
The first ever. Yeah, it's the first ever horror anthology to feature tales of folklore and legends that herald from the American South. It's I guess it was just launched
Today?
$4,500. It's at $1,260 right now. Hey, I guess he's doing that instead of Lara-Su.
I hope he got paid something for his work in Beginnings.
My assumption is that he might get a check, but I don't know how much it would be. Because Ken did, like, when he originally announced Beginnings, Stephen Butler and I believe Jim Amash, their names were on the cover. And then their names were not on the cover. And for their names to not be on the cover, my guess is that somebody, perhaps Stephen Butler and Jim Amash, said, don't put our names on the cover. So he had to have talked to somebody.
Yeah, and their names are in like the book itself in the proper credits, so at least that, yeah, it's probably thinking like they don't want to be associated as if like they were direct collaborators on it, but they're like, we want to be credited for our work, but don't say we like directly worked on this with you.
Yeah.
I want to move on from talking about Lara-Su and Ken Penders, but I do want to say at least one more thing, which is just that, just to your point, Stefan, of like, what I would like to see from Ken is, yes, definitely something new and something that's just like maybe an autobiographical comic, you know, like he's kind of wanting to
that's
put
all
that
of Ken's work.
Yes, but without the echidna veneer of it. You know,
talk
like
about
an
his
actual
service in the military.
Yeah.
You can talk about how he met Bernie.
His relationship with his parents, how he got into Sonic, how he became like a figure of infamy online in certain circles, and how, you know, he had like a rise to fame, but then he also became like infamous, like I said, and then, you know, now he's like an independent guy and he like fought for creator rights. That's a good.
The only thing is I don't think he would, because what I've heard from Chris and David say about his like forward and the stuff he talks about like that, he doesn't seem self-aware. Like it was kind of like there needed to be like, he needed an editor or he needed another writer to help him with that, because he doesn't mention anything about the lawsuits or the trading in that, where I feel like if he was more self-aware, he probably would have like mention that or brought it up and like be all like, oh, go and maybe want to like share a bit more of this is kind of stuff what happened, but now things are changing. But instead he keeps it completely vague or just doesn't say it at all. Probably because, again, he's not. In his mind, people may see him as the bad guy, but in his mind, he doesn't see himself as the bad guy at all. So, like, he has no reason to say. I don't think Ken sees himself as a controversial figure at all. He just thinks that, oh, there's some people online being dumb. Whatever.
I don't know.
It's the way to be, damn it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's because I don't think Ken Penders is a bad guy. He's just human, and he's made some mistakes, and he's made some not mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Which would be like, what is the opposite of a mistake? A success? I don't.
He's just interesting. He's had a
he's a very interesting character. Yeah, that's why I'm 100% in on the autobiographical comic. So we'll add that to the pitch when to also add that to Islands and Echidnas, the role playing book.
Yes.
So that sounds good.
Great. Okay, so shifting gears.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah. No. That's I was done.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I feel like we kind of said all the things about it, and anyway, we're kind of running out of time. So shifting gears, I do want to shift the gear, right, to Bo and the Rings of Saturn, which we have gone a month without recording the show, but Rings of Saturn has not missed a beat. Lots of new things have been happening, and what are some of those things?
Yeah, so without you guys as my anchor, I cast about a little bit and wound up in the arms of the Sega Saturn Shiro community. So I was a guest on their Editor's Corner podcast, and you can hear me talking for 2 hours about Saturn hacking if you're so inclined. I'm sure there will be a link in some sort of place you can find. And also, we're teaming up, and they are syndicating some of my articles. First one dropped today. It's about the Saturn game Dark Savior. You guys have heard of Dark Savior?
Nope.
If you missed that one, it's by Climax. They're they did Time Stalkers on the Dreamcast, and they did Land Stalkers on the Genesis. Well remembered RPG sort of games, but to my mind, Dark Savior is the coolest of their games, and it's cool because it has this very non-linear story. So you start out the game, you're on a ship, a boat, and this monster has broken into the boat. He's attacking your captain, and you got to get down there. And depending on how quickly you get down there, it determines the entire course of the game. So if you do it quickly, you save the captain, the story branches off in one way. If you get there in a medium amount of time, the monster's fighting the captain, and you got to fight the monster. The story goes a different way. And if you totally take your time and are very slow, the monster kills the captain, and you get even a third branch. So it's hundreds of different little combinations and branching points and things inside this game. And I don't know if anybody's really seen it all. But okay, so what's my contribution to this is I took one of the demo discs for this game, and I thought, well, what if there's some stuff beyond the part where it says coming soon? And sure enough, there's just a ton of unfinished stuff, and maybe some sort of evidence of another branch of the storyline that involves a giant that drinks beer and smokes cigarettes, and at some point bubblegum covers everything. It's very strange. But yeah, that's what's up with the Rings of Saturn, Dark Savior.
Dark Savior, yeah. I'm looking it up on Wikipedia right now. It says right at the top, it was referred to by GameSpot as a sequel to Landstalker: The Treasures of King Noel, even though the game storylines are unrelated and their gameplay is considerably different. If I don't know, if I were writing an article on Wikipedia, I think I'd not include that.
What? Why not?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm not huge into RPGs, but the idea that something is decided so early on and there are essentially 3 different stories going on, that's interesting.
It's pretty cool. And I love an RPG where you just start out in a guy's bedroom. Every JRPG is like that. And this one is no different. You start out in, you're on a boat, but it's his bedroom in the boat.
Well, everyone's first memory is being in a bedroom, right?
Yeah, it should be a Sonic RPG, and you start in Sonic's bedroom.
All right.
And you've got to find like an item in your bedroom that's going to be useful to you later in the game.
Okay. Is there ever an RPG that starts like you're in the bedroom, you open the door, and it's just like the void of space, and you tumble out, and nonsense?
Super Mario Brothers 2.
Swagman is a little like that. You start in your bedroom, and you open the door, and there is like the void of space is opened up.
Wow. There's Shenmue, you start in the bedroom, and you can open up every drawer, and that's pretty exciting. You can find
goddamn need to, because there's a flashlight in there that you need later.
You are. Ooh. Yes. Okay, shifting gears once again. Thank you, Bo. Rings of Saturn. Let's look at the mailbag, because we did take a month off, and we have been soliciting listener emails, and we've got one pretty good one to read. So thank you for that. Subject is added to the mailbag. We love it when it's clear like that. The letter is from Adam Saving Throws. Says, hey, weekly Sonic podcasters. I want to start out by saying I love the show. I'd been in a rut for a while when it came to wanting to play video games, and I had serious franchise fatigue with Sonic as a whole. But after discovering your show through the mention in the FTCR Sonic 3D Black Saturn Let's Play, I felt like you boys dragged me back in by the neck and held my eyes open while we all watched this franchise fumble its way through another year together. So anyway, I was thinking about Sonic Forces, as you do, and I remember people's takes on the game being pretty angry regarding how lacking the final product was. I always associated their frustration with the Sonic cycle because I found the game pretty fun, but I played it a couple of years after it had been released. What I'm trying to ask is, how do you think fans should break out of the Sonic cycle before they get hit in the face with their own disappointment? Thanks for all the entertaining hours while I'm working or traveling. Much love from the Lizzie Lickers across the Atlantic Pond, Adam. Saving throws.
This is something I need to mention because that reminded me of something. My friend Caro Taro, who's a good friend of us, she's a teacher at I believe it's an elementary school, and a lot of the elementary school, like they're all like the people that she teaches are all like pretty fans of Sonic, and she told me that one of the games that they all like played a lot was Sonic Forces, and that they all enjoy Sonic Forces and have fun with it. So it's like when we were talking, she kind of gave me this snarky thing of like, maybe it's because this franchise is for children and that children are enjoying the game.
Stefan, I'm hearing horrifying things. I'm hearing that they're incubating the next 10 years of Sonic Twitter debate, because those kids are going to grow up and post 4 pictures of Sonic Forces and say, what's the deal?
That's assuming Twitter still exists and hasn't been replaced.
They're going to post it somewhere. They're going to make YouTube essays. They're going to make YouTube essays. Sonic Forces overhated?
Well,
Sonic Forces was my mother and father.
I think I'm already there. So, okay,
yeah,
number one,
already exist.
Forces hits different if you're 7, no doubt about it. And number 2, Forces is Generations 2 only worse. Like,
yes,
it's classic Sonic, it's modern Sonic, it's this new thing that doesn't really work. It's modern Chaotix, where you're controlling the 2 of them. It's worse in every dimension than first Generations, but you know what I always wanted was just more Generations, and like kind of the classic Chemical Plant and classic Death Egg levels are pretty good. Like, I don't know, there's worse games. Lost World is the worst game.
Forces is just the most kind of like middling. It's like it's more so painful because you can see it's so close to greatness, but it just kind of straddles mediocrity for the most part. It's like, I enjoy this part. I enjoy this part. It's like, I think the Avatar is fun and has a cool gimmick. Yeah, more Generations gameplay is fun. Some of the worlds and ideas is cool. It's like, I mean, like classic Sonic all the way is bad, but the rest of it, it's like you can see it's like it's not it's not the worst. It's not bad. It's not terrible to play. It's not like broken design wise. It's just it's just kind of it's disappointing. But it's one where if I can see, I can be like, it's simply designed enough that I completely get why kids would enjoy this, because it's not bad. It's again not badly designed. It's not broken to play. It has decent ideas. It's like sure, this could be it's a decent gateway 3D game.
I think that's exactly it, is because it's very short and it's very easy, and it's very accessible. And it was my first Boost game because Mania brought me back.
What?
Yeah, Mania brought me back, and I hadn't really played 3D Sonic for quite a while at that point. So Switch, Sonic Forces, and then I went backwards from there. But but with Sonic Forces being short and easy, I do think that makes it more accessible, which is great. And I also think it needs to be understood as being a budget title. It was $40. Sonic Mania was $20. So the idea that the two games together are sort of the $60 experience, I think, helps to forgive the slightness of Forces for me a bit.
What I really wanted is just like a bunch of Generations level packs. And if we just imagine Forces is a Generations level pack, it's like the 8th one they did, and kind of like, all right, we're out of ideas, then it makes more sense. Like, give me the other 7.
Right.
And maybe we're getting that finally with Sonic X Shadow Generations coming October or something.
Generations 3 is what that is.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
Not Generations 3D, of course.
I have found that, like, I mean, like, if I have a friend who's like not familiar with Sonic, and if I give them Unleashed to try out, they struggle. If I give them Generations, they can figure it out a bit more, but they still kind of like, they're still like have like the boost thing is hard for them to figure out. But if I give them Forces, yeah, they've been able, like, they can figure out everything like pretty fast. So it's like, again, there are criticisms you can make of the simplified design, but there is some merit of being like, it is a decent gateway 3D game for people who have never played a 3D game.
What about the other part of the question about how do you think fans should break out of the Sonic cycle?
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. We just started talking about Forces, but we've avoided the question, how do you break out of it? And maybe part of the issue is like the cycle, I think, is sort of built up, even though the cycle itself has never really been true, as in like the specifics, but it is like there's the rise of excitement, and then it's the crash of disappointment. That is the easiest version of the Sonic cycle. And to me, I think part of it might be Sonic fans, some of them are a bit insecure in the fact that they are fans of Sonic. The Genesis games come out, they're incredibly strong. They change the landscape of gaming. Adventure comes out, which I still think is great. But then you do have a bunch of games that kind of, in some ways, I guess, tarnish the reputation of Sonic the Hedgehog.
A little bit.
And I think maybe the expectation is that, the next Sonic game will prove everyone wrong, and that Sonic the Hedgehog is the best franchise in gaming, and it is better than Mario. And maybe it's that desire that this is going to be the one that proves all the haters wrong, and then, well, it's not, and so you're not enjoying it for what it is. You are still then met with a wave of disappointment. And I know many times, Grant, Bo, like, you've talked about, hey, this is a 7 out of 10 franchise. So maybe if you go in with that mindset, like, hey, this doesn't have to be the best thing ever, but I'm not going to expect it to be the worst thing ever. Appreciate it for what it is. And you've already broken out of it because you're going to enjoy it more, because you haven't placed insane expectation onto it. You just got to go in and be like, I like Sonic. I'm going to like something out of this, even if it isn't the best game in the franchise or the best game ever.
I think you're right. And I think, is this a hot take? The Sonic cycle is broken. I think Frontiers and Superstars were not subject to the cycle. Everybody thought Frontiers looks like a collection of broken toys. And you know what? It came out. It was a collection of broken toys that somehow worked great together. Yeah. And Superstars, we got the band back together. It's the classic physics. It's a new story. Knack is back. It should have been hype, but people are just like, oh, yeah, I guess that's coming out. Okay. And then, the multiplayer kind of sucks. But, the rest of it's pretty good. I think the cycle's broken.
And I think, David, also what you said is also summarizes the themes of the Lara-Su Chronicles. It's setting
it's 7 out of 10?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Something like that.
No,
Yeah.
something like that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
it's setting
anyway.
expectations. Yeah.
Anyway, I was going to say that if Smoovies could start to cue up the outro music, we are at time. But this has been great fun. Thank you all. Chris, Smoovies, Stefan, Steven, David, Bo,
Right.
and me. Thank you to all of us. But now David will do the thing.
Oh, yeah. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've heard the song playing in the old eardrums that told me and tell all of you that we're winding down, that we have successfully gotten through another episode of Sonic Weekly, a jammed-packed crossover episode. That's right. Hey, if you enjoy us crossing over with other Sonic fans, other Sonic groups, other Sonic whatevers,
Teams?
you should what?
Sonic teams? To coin a
Sonic
phrase.
That's the obvious one, isn't
Sonic
it?
Team.
You should let us know. But before you let us know, if you haven't already, you should of course like. You should subscribe. Subscribe with it's been a little while since I've done this. Subscribe with your podcatcher of choice, be that Apple Podcast, be that Spotify, be that Podcast Addict, which I'm assuming still runs on Android. It's still operational. It hasn't
I use it every day.
fallen to the every day. That's strong praise. Yeah, and you know what? But if you don't even want to deal with a podcatcher, we do exist over on YouTube. It's at Sonic-Weekly. You can subscribe there. You can like and comment on there as well. And those episodes, they feature gameplay footage from friend of the show, Jack of Old Games. While we've been on break, he's been uploading some older episodes that were on the YouTube feed before. You should go ahead and check them out, because sometimes you just want to watch someone playing a game. And after you give us a review or just subscribe or do whatever, you can reach out to the show. It's at Sonic Weekly Podcast. It's Sonic Weekly Podcast at gmail.com. You put the at where you put an at when you email. Send us a line. You could tell us what sort of crossovers with Sonic teams you want to hear. And this is usually I'm like, hey, you got to email us something to get a thing. But we've been around for a while. It's season 3. We're rolling something out. People have had, if you're familiar at all with the internet, you probably heard of, I guess it's pronounced coffee, but it could be Ko-Fi. I like calling it Ko-Fi.
Ko-Fi.
K-O. It's Ko-Fi,
It's
but it's supposed to kind of look like a coffee. It's funny, right? Ko-Fi, ko-fi.com/Sonic Weekly. Yes, we're opening up a tip jar where you can either, throw us a couple bucks one time. We do have the membership thing going on, which at the moment,
Yeah, so it's going to yield rewards. Basically, if you, you'll get something. You'll get something. If you give us just your email address, you will get Ashlyn Ansty, wife of me, and frequent guest of the show, is excited to create custom art. Maybe we'll write you poems, and definitely you'll get into the Discord. And you can also get into the Discord just by emailing us and asking. You can still get in that way, but you get it automatically if you leave a tip of any amount, and you don't even have to ask.
The possibilities are never ending.
Right. So if you drop in something Ko-Fi, you'll get it sent automatically. But the email option still works if you ask nicely, because that lets us know that you're listening, and you'll be able to join our Discord server and talk to like-minded Sonic the Hedgehog fans, where it's not all just about Sonic, but there's a lot of Sonic talk, because that's how it works. I do want to thank, I guess, whoever's Grant, you're editing this episode with a little assist from Smoovies. It's not, he's still here, but you're working together somehow to edit this. I think it's fine. I don't understand how computers work. I gotta thank the guests of the show once again, the FTCR crew, Chris.
Oh, hi.
Stefan.
Whoa.
I already thanked Smoovies, but you're still here too. I can thank myself because I'm part of FTCR. I can consider myself a guest this time.
You know what, David? Thank you.
Thank you.
Gotta once again
Thank you.
thank. Right, so many thanks. And before I thank Grant and Bo, I just wanted to say to Adam, who wrote in, you were experiencing franchise fatigue with Sonic, but we're watching a Sonic video to be led here to a Sonic podcast.
What are you doing saving throws?
Whatever works. I'm glad you enjoy it, but I'm a little confused. So,
I enjoy it.
Yes, but thank you, Grant and Bo, coming back for season 3.
You are welcome.
You're so welcome.
And
Scene.
Bye-bye.
Where's the end button?